Okay, so inshallah, we'll start by reading the lesson. Bismillah. Purification ritual, the necessities of ghusl. Point number 1, the emission of semen out of lust while awake or asleep. 2, sexual intercourse. This is the partial or full intercourse between a man and a woman, even if ejaculation does not occur. 3, menstruation or postpartum bleeding. 4, childbirth, even if it is not followed by postpartum bleeding. 5, death except for the martyr of battle. Okay, so here in today's lesson, we mentioned a new ritual. It's called ghusl. Ghusl is another ritual that we perform to cleanse ourselves from certain impurities. And today we mention these impurities, meaning what actions require us to perform ghusl. So first, we mentioned the emission of semen out of lust while asleep or awake. So if a man were to have any sexual thoughts while awake or asleep with the emission of semen, then he would have to perform ghusl to purify himself. The next one is sexual intercourse. If a married couple were to have partial or full intercourse, then it would be obligated for them to perform the ghusl. Also, for example, say if a man were to touch his wife with his private part anywhere on her body, then ghusl would not be an obligation in this case. It would only be absolutely necessary if partial or full intercourse happens, even if there's no ejaculation. But both would have to perform the ghusl. Next, we have the menstruation or postpartum bleeding at the end. So when the menstruation or postpartum bleeding come to an end, the bleeding stops. The woman either finishes her period or the bleeding stops after in the postpartum after childbirth. In both cases, she would have to perform ghusl. Also, after childbirth, even if the mother does not experience any bleeding at all, she is still required to perform the ghusl. And lastly, it is mentioned the martyr of battle. So here it's an obligation upon others, upon those who are in charge of washing the dead martyr's body to perform his ghusl. Now, this concludes the necessities or obligations of ghusl that are mentioned in the fiqh. There's also another kind of ghusl called recommended ghusl. And what does that mean exactly? It means it's not mandatory to perform. It's sunnah. A person will not get any sins if they do not perform it. But if they were to perform it, they'll receive hasanat. We will not be learning about the recommended ghusl today. Inshallah, we'll do that later on. I just wanted to give a brief idea of it. And now we have reached the end of today's lesson in the necessities of ghusl. Jazakumullahu khairan.